here we are. Pull up a chair. Let's talk about those behaviors that can completely derail a class or just, change the whole tune of your classroom environment. Okay. So first off, let's talk about some examples of disruptive or disrespectful behavior so you can kind of see what we're going to be addressing today. So sassy attitudes, like, why do we have to learn this? Why are we doing this activity? Why are we doing this activity in this way? My other teacher did this. My other teacher likes this. My blah, 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 like blah, blah, blah. Sneaky and snarky remarks, things that like kind of fly, but don't fly, but they're sneaky enough that you're like, and then they're repeated. So where they're making some sort of sass or snark and it's constant. Lack of respect for you, your content area knowledge, your expertise. I mean, that is a whole bucket of worms right there, right? Sometimes it's related to the subject matter, right? Sometimes they're not impressed by a language class or don't think they need it. And sometimes it's that they don't think that you are a good teacher and they let you know it, right? They're like, oh, they don't know how to teach or, whatever. That comes out in different ways, but it's something that you easily on, obviously, because they're not shy about letting you know that they have that opinion. This also appears when or if you share, oh, I don't know the answer to that. Let's look that up together. Like I've talked about many times in modeling that lifelong learner kind of journey. Sometimes when you say that, they're like, oh, so you don't actually speak Spanish or, like whatever it is. That kind of attitude comes out. And again, that's disrespectful for your knowledge, your expertise. One other kind of category of disruptive or disrespectful behavior that we're going to talk about are things that are like physically disruptive. So throwing stuff, pushing, shoving, tearing things, damaging materials. So like you have the kid who writes on the bulletin board or peels it off, that kind of stuff. That is that category for me. So that's kind of a wide range of behavior possibilities. So your turn. Drop me a comment. Let me know what's something either that you're struggling with right now or something that you've struggled with in the past, something that you've overcome, whatever. Share now that we've had some chance to share and talk about these different behaviors that we've experienced, dealt with, or maybe are dealing with. Let's talk about some different ways that you can respond and deal with that. So first and foremost, and you know this, I know this, but I have to say this, it's kid and attitude dependent, right? How I deal with somebody who is physically disruptive is different than the kid who just sneaks in a snarky comment under their breath over and over and over again, right? Those are two different kids, different experiences, different reasons for that happening. So those are going to have different approaches. And obviously every kid is different. Another thing that can make a big difference in how we respond to this sort of thing are school environments and school culture. And also just the culture of the town that you live in or the family that that kid is from. That can also affect their behavior and their beliefs that they might bring into your classroom in a way that isn't the most positive. And so sometimes you just have to be aware, like, this is where they're coming from. This is the environment that they grew up in. How do we, kind of share and teach this global perspective? Sometimes it feels like an uphill battle, but just, being aware of those other factors as well. So some possible actions you can take when you're experiencing these kinds of behaviors. Lean into that desire for attention with routines and student jobs. Some students are disruptive because they want that attention and they're not getting it in the right way. So we can lean into that and make them a star in a positive way. So a really simple option is to just do special person interviews. And this is a daily routine that I like to do in my classroom. I have a video here where I talk about daily routines and all of those, but that's a great one for the student who is like, look at me. And you're like, please sit down. Student jobs are another really great way to engage them in a healthy and like channel that behavior kind of manner. And I have a video here where I talk about different student jobs for engagement. That's the kid who should be the brain break reminder. That's the kid who should be Alakazam. That's the can kid. All of those kinds of jobs that require them to be like, hit me. That's the kid for that job. Now, that's not for every kid. Some kids, you just need to have a calm, measured response because they're trying to get a rise, right? They're trying to get those buttons. And so if they see you having your buttons pushed, they're like, So sometimes these behaviors go away when you just don't react. Of course, there's times where you have to react, but if there's just little things where they're just needling you in ways that aren't necessarily disrespectful, but are just trying to get your buttons pushed, try the ignoring game and see how that works out. Sometimes they give up. Some students do really, really well with a one-to-one convo where you pull them out into the hallway, or you grab them before class, or, maybe even just during class, and you just say, hey, I noticed this. Let's talk about it. Sometimes that's just a kid saying that I need you to notice me. And that's sometimes the same as the first kind of kid where you're giving them that positive attention, but this way it's positive attention in a one-on-one setting. And you're saying, hey, I'm noticing this. I see you. I hear you. Let's talk about this. Sometimes it's as simple as switching up your seating chart. And of course, switching up your seating chart is never simple, but I have a whole video where I talk about seating charts for classroom management, so I'm not going to dig into this strategy too much, but check that out right there. Sometimes you just shoot an email home to guardian, parent, whatever. However, I think we've probably all experienced that situation where you send a note home or you call and the response is less than supportive, or it's just straight up useless. And you're like, oh, okay then. So other possibilities. I love talking to a coach. Love it. Love if they have a coach. Hello, coach. You're my new best friend because this friend in my classroom is not doing great. Ta-da! Obviously, you can go to your admin. This is so far down the list for me because I know that admin are super busy. Also, not every school has super supportive admin. So depending on where you are, maybe you're like, oh, that is the first thing I do. And that's great. But if that's not you, there's all those other things. Another option for you, and this is kind of a tricky one, but it can work, is to get peers on your side. Like I said, really tricky because you don't want it to become like a war of you and the class versus the student. That can be a really tricky dynamic to navigate. But as tricky as that is to navigate, sometimes this positive peer pressure can really turn around a classroom environment if it's just one kid who's like causing your issues. There's also the magic wand button of the perfect content. And when I say the magic wand of the perfect content, what I mean is finding that thing, finding that unit, finding that topic that's interesting to them and they want to dig into it. And when I say magic, I'm saying magic because it's kind of like a unicorn where you're like, does this even exist? I don't know. Am I going to be able to find something that's going to get them into things? This is where, getting to know them, paying attention to the things that they have on them, around them, what they're listening, what they're saying, what they're doing, all those sorts of things you see. What are they interested in? And how can we bring that into our content? Or just really finding ways to present the content to them in a way that's personal. Last but not least, this is a 100% last resort option for me. It would be a conversation with the counselor about, is this class a requirement? Can they drop? Should they drop? Right? Sometimes it's just so not happening for them for whatever else is going on. Because maybe there's a lot of stuff going on and maybe you see they're failing 6 out of 7 classes. My class is optional. Maybe we should put them in some sort of support post-class period or like a one-on-one homeroom or something. And again, totally going to depend on your school. Totally going to depend on your response to intervention tiers and however you guys are setting all of that up. That's going to look differently for every single school. And I know I talked about, dropping the class. Some schools, this is a requirement. You're here and you're a problem because you don't want to be here, but you have to be here. So, okay, that conversation is going to look differently. Sometimes coming from somebody else is a little bit easier for them to stomach. Do you want to graduate? Yes. No. Pass this class. And I know that's not what we want to rely on for motivation, but sometimes you just have those conversations with them and you're like, I don't want to see you again next year. Do you want to see me again next year? Are you enjoying this? This is fun. Let's turn this around and not do this again. Your turn. What are some of your favorite ways to kind of solve these problem behaviors or different strategies that you've tried in the past? Super important, something that you need to not forget, something that I need to not forget to talk to you about is that it's never a one-size-fits-all solution. So all of these things are options, are strategies. Sometimes you're going to try 7 of them and the 8th one works. And sometimes you're going to try 19 of them and you're like, sorry. Do not forget to talk to other teachers in the school who have this student or these students or this particular group of students. Sometimes it's just the whole dang group of students and all of the teachers in the school are like, what do we do with them? Sometimes the teacher's like, what do you mean? They're a magical unicorn student in my class and I love having them. And you're like, no, you. Either way, if you find that teacher who has that relationship with the student, talk to them and figure out what is going on. What's the secret sauce that's happening? And can they, share some with you? that's all I've got for you. Hopefully this is helpful for you when you're considering those disrespectful and disruptive behaviors that you might be seeing. I just want to remind you that everybody experiences things like this. Everybody has students that are a little bit more challenging, or maybe a whole class period. We've all been there. Okay. Keep your head up, keep going, take a deep breath. You can do this. Don't forget to ask other teachers for help, either in your school building or building that online community where you can say, this is happening. I don't know what to do. If you're not sure where to find support or you're looking for more support, make sure you check out my video here on how to be a better Spanish teacher. In this video, I not only talk about some of my favorite professional development opportunities that have taught me more about classroom management, but also some of my favorite communities where I go ask these kinds of questions when I need help. As always, if you need anything, don't forget to drop me a comment or just reach out if you have any questions. I am so happy to help. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.